A great number of our modern societies rely on one technology, the computer. Smartphones, information keeping, complex math, the internet, these are all dependent on the computer. Undoubtedly, the computer is one of the most important innovations of the 20th century, and yet few know how it came to be invented. Everyone knows the story of Thomas Edison's light bulb or the Wright brothers' plane, but very few are familiar with the birth of the computer. This is in part because of its complex history. To find the birth of the modern computer, one must travel all the way back to the late 1930s.
World War II was raging, and the Allied forces were being decimated by Nazi U-boats. The U-boats were undetectable and made a habit of destroying Allied support ships, cutting off important resources and deeply crippling the Allies. Many experts of the time estimated that if something was not done, England would be starved into surrender sooner rather than later. A plan was formed. The Nazis used a complex coding device known as Enigma to code their wartime transmissions, and the key to the war lay in that machine. The Enigma device and code used by the German military forces baffled Allied nations. It wasn't until 1939 that the Allies finally broke the Enigma code with the use of Alan Turing's Enigma machine.
The origin of the Enigma code can be traced back to the end of World War I, when the German army then adopted the code made by Arthur Schreibus, a German engineer, and used it to scramble transmissions during World War II. Throughout the war, the Allies were suffering deep losses on and off of the battlefield because of their inability to crack Enigma. Because of this, there was a massive amount of pressure to break the code. There were several top-secret facilities devoted to researching Enigma, perhaps the most influential of which was located in Bletchley Park in England. This was where the Enigma was finally broken once and for all, with help from previous work done by the Polish Cipher Bureau before the Nazis had taken Poland. Several machines were created in Bletchley, many of which were largely dependent on the work of Alan Turing, a British codebreaker and mathematician. Turing's work cracking the Enigma code and the machines his team created would lay the foundation for modern computers. The Colossus was one of the machines built during World War II that was used to crack the Enigma code, and is widely considered one of the first computers. It worked by reading paper tapes 5,000 characters per second. Because the machine worked at such a high speed, it required a complex assembly of wheels to keep the paper from ripping. How long have you been teaching technology classes at Drake?
18 years.
How familiar are you with Alan Turing or the Enigma machine?
So I know a lot about the Enigma machine. Actually, I had an internship at the Smithsonian a long time ago where they had an Enigma machine. So I got to see it up close, and it was a crazy product slash computer slash pivotal turning point in World War II when that code was broken because the Allies with Alan Turing were able to figure out a way to break the code within the Enigma machine. It did change the course of part of the war.
As the first programmable electrical computer, it led to many other well-known computers, including the ENIAC computer, which was able to calculate large systems of numbers. Eventually, computers continued to get more and more complex, until they evolved into the device you're watching this video now.
How much do you know about how the computer was invented?
I mean, that's such a wonderfully broad question, because if we go back to Ada Lovelace, she was doing some of the original programming before 1900. If we're talking about personal computers, that's almost my lifetime. Well, I was alive a little bit beforehand, but I was there for all the personal computer magic as it started.
How are you familiar with the field of modern technology, specifically computers?
You mean like how did I become familiar with it?
Yes.
Read, watch, learn. I mean, even pre-internet, I was always interested in it. It was just harder to get the information. Once the internet was born and started to fill up with information, right, then you could learn all you wanted pretty much tech-wise by just doing good searching and spending time.
How do you think the computer affected the flow of technological advancement?
I think that, obviously a personal computer, a smartphone is an advancement unto itself, but it has also fueled lots of other advancements because of the computer being used as a tool. Take spaceflight for an example. The computer allowed scientists and engineers to do programming and designing that beforehand would have been much more difficult, if not impossible. So that's one older example. Let's take a look at 3D printing. 3D printer needs a cheap computer, kind of like an Arduino, to run and do its thing. So there's another way that that small cheap computer brought about another advancement, 3D printing.
How does the computer compare to other important inventions in the 20th century?
Yeah, how do you rank that against penicillin or the polio vaccine, or we just celebrated the anniversary of the discovery of flight? I feel like computers, again, being used as a tool can impact so many other disciplines. It might be one of the most important developments, but you have to give credit to then all the other disciplines and discoveries and inventions that it fed.
How did it change the course of our history?
So far, it has certainly changed the way we work and the way we entertain ourselves in some cultures. We already talked about the scientific advancements that have come about because the computer was used as a tool. The question is, we're nowhere near to seeing the end of how it's going to affect our advancement as a society. If you follow the science fiction Hollywood style line of thought, at some point the computers take over.
Do you think that scientific or technological advancement always leads to progress?
I think it always leads to development that is more advanced. But would we call the development of a military drone progress? If the connotation of progress is something that is positive for the entire human race, then no, not always, by any means.
The impact of the computers cannot be overstated. It seems repetitive to ever mention it, considering how commonplace this technology is now. Think of how many things you did today that would be impossible without the computer. How many modern jobs wouldn't exist, how many aspects of modern life would be absent. The future is bright for technological advancements as screens engulf modern life. Already there are improved technologies for space travel, medical care, and even common office work, all of these because people were driven to create and improve the first computers.